What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Marinoni Time. I'm Alex Marinoni, and in today's episode, it's basically part 2 or part B of my last episode where we broke down the Jets schedule. In this one, we'll break down the New York Giants schedule. The Giants, on paper, have the 26th toughest schedule, so definitely something that plays in their favor, but in my opinion, I don't think it's as easy as that they make that sound. Having to play the AFC North and the NFC West, those are two of the tougher divisions in football. So last year, a couple of the teams definitely underwhelmed. So that's where that toughest schedule sort of call in the beginning of the year gets a little murky, because people will see, oh, I got the easiest schedule or whatever, and when it comes down to it, it's because some teams may have underperformed, injuries may have caused some teams to play poorly last year, and it affects the winning percentage, obviously, and then obviously, which affects the winning percentage this year. So, but looking at things, the Giants last year finished at 4-12. People were upset to start the year and pretty much gave Daniel Jones a very unfair welcoming and a very unfair thought on him, which is probably true. Giants fans are probably right, but Dave Gettleman taking him with the 6th pick and not the 17th pick, where you could have had a guy like Josh Allen at that 6th pick, who ended up getting 10-plus sacks for the Jaguars last year, and then getting your quarterback anyway at 17. I think Giants fans would have felt better about that. But overall, in the early going, he was a fumbling machine, but he was a turnover machine, Daniel Jones. And I thought he got better as the year went on, to the point where Giants fans should feel happy about it. I think, though, he still needs to put a full season together this year and really give Giants fans that certainty that they have their franchise guy. And he's definitely going to be tested this year, and especially when we break down the schedule in Week 1. I mean, I thought it was very, very interesting that the NFL gave the Giants Monday Night Football to start the year. They're playing prime time, and they're playing against a very good team in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh last year, had they had a half-decent quarterback, they probably would have been a playoff team. That's how good the defense was, and that's how well the rest of the offense stepped up when they needed to. And that was without James Conner as well. So they were doing that with makeshift running backs and makeshift quarterbacks. And they were, I forgot if they finished 8-8 or they were somewhere in the middle of the pack and were playing for a playoff spot up until last week. So getting Ben Roethlisberger back this year is just going to make that offense much better. Juju Smith will probably jump back on the page again this year. And then, of course, Roethlisberger is just going to make everybody else better. So playing them Monday night is a very, very tough ask, and it's going to definitely challenge Jones and that Giants offense early on with that defense. I mean, you got guys like Fitzpatrick and company running around in the secondary. And then, of course, T.J. Watt, who an all-pro last year, and Cam Hayward. I mean, T.J. Watt is definitely going to challenge the Giants' first-round pick in Andrew Thomas. Thomas, brought over to be the future left tackle, probably will start the year at right tackle. That's going to be an interesting key of what happens with this Giants offensive line, if they move Nate Soldier over to the right side or what they're going to do there. But T.J. Watt is definitely, you're going to learn a lot about Andrew Thomas that first week with T.J. Watt. So Steelers are looking for a better Week 1 performance. Last year they started, I know it was prime time. I don't know if it was Monday night though. It had to be, or if it was Sunday night. One of the other against the Patriots, and really put up a dud. And that was one of 2 games that Roethlisberger played and just looked very bad. Knowing he needed surgery was the reason why. But it's going to be interesting on both sides, both a measuring stick game for the Giants and a measuring stick game for Roethlisberger to see where he's at, if he's going to be back at Roethlisberger level. But a very interesting game for Monday night. Definitely a tough ask, even though at home, to expect a win. Week 2. This is another interesting game, considering they'll be home against they're going to be on the road against the Chicago Bears. The Bears are a team that is complete on the defensive side of the ball and pretty complete on the offensive side of the ball as well, except at quarterback. And it would definitely benefit the Giants if Mitch Trubisky is the starting quarterback of that team. But if it's Nick Foles or another quarterback they could bring in during this time, that makes things very interesting. I still believe the Chicago Bears should be all about calling Cam Newton, removing themselves from Mitch Trubisky, and having Foles back up Newton. You do something like that, I think the Bears not only are favorites in this game, but are one of the better teams in the NFC. But that's a different discussion. For here, the Giants have an opportunity to make this a game. Again, it's going against a very difficult defense. I mean, honestly, 4 games in a row, the Giants are playing some of the better defenses in the league to start the year. If Daniel Jones, though, doesn't turn the ball over, I feel like if Mitch Trubisky's starting in this game, the Giants will be in the game. So it will be interesting to see how this one plays out. That first game, doing it on paper right now, I'd probably mark it as a loss. The second game, maybe because it's on the road, I mark it a loss, but it will definitely be a better game. It's pretty tough. I don't know how the Giants got the 26th ranked, because now they start week 3, and then they're home against the San Francisco 49ers. And thinking like the Jets, I said in the last episode, that the 49ers have to come to MetLife, which makes it tough to make that trip. The 49ers are already going to be here. They play the Jets week 2, so they're probably just going to stay in Jersey or in New York, wherever, for the week to play the Giants. So that jet lag will be washed away. They'll find somewhere to practice, and it's going to be tough for the Giants in this game. I'm obviously going to mark this game as a loss, being the fact that they're the reigning NFC champs. And this is just another game another very difficult defense. This is one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, who for 3 quarters held Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in check, and it took a late push for the Chiefs to even beat them in the Super Bowl. And again, this is a team in the Giants who struggled last year against the run for the beginning part of the year. I mean, they lost to the Cardinals strictly with them throwing the ball like 9 times. I think Kyler Murray didn't even throw the ball double-digit amount of times. So this is a game where you're really going to need Leonard Williams and the rest of that defensive line to limit the 49ers' rush attack and force Jimmy Garoppolo to beat you. But I think this is just way too much star power on the 49ers for the Giants to really even be in this game. Week 4, the Giants then do have to travel cross country to play their second an NFC West team in the Los Angeles Rams. This is a game that the Rams, again from last year, 9-7, missed the playoffs, and with some new pieces this year, they're still a competitive team. It's not like they lost Gurley, they lost Clay Matthews, they lost also Corey Littleton and Dante Fowler, but they were able to replace them between other free agent moves and in the draft. So this is a team that the Rams are looking to get back into that prominent NFC dominating role. Even last year they were still picked to win the NFC after winning the year before. Again, might be a game that the Giants are just a year or two away from being able to compete in. You just hope that, again, it's all about the quarterback this year. You just hope Daniel Jones and Saquon can keep this game close and can keep up with a potential shootout. And if they can, then at least there's signs to show that like the Giants are there, and they just need to clean up some other things. And it's encouraging signs if they can somehow keep this a game. But overall, this is a game that on the road I don't like the Giants in at all. So, and between that, looking at all these games, their best chance to win is probably Chicago, but that's on the road. So there's a good chance the Giants can come out the gates 0-4. Week 5, they are on the road again. They're going to Dallas, and Dallas looks, as ready to win as the last couple of years. They're probably between them and the Eagles, obviously, are the favorites in the NFC East, and are even though at 7-9 last year, some of the offseason additions they made, especially in the draft with adding CeeDee Lamb, is a big help. You had Michael Gallup, who at times last year as the number 2 showed that he could be a very quality number 2 wide receiver to pair with Amari Cooper, but considering the fact that you have to measure his good with a lot of his bad, which was a lot of drops, and that comes with the entire receiving core. A lot of drops for Prescott last year, and Prescott was inconsistent last year besides the drops. Yes, you can point to some of the team not playing well. The defense didn't play particularly well last year for a long stretch of the season, but you still need to be able to, as a starting quarterback, give your team, I guess you could say, make those big-time plays and those big-time moments against the better teams. He made all those big-time plays against teams like the Dolphins and really any team with a winning record outside of the Jets last year. He basically put on them. And it's great that you can take care of the games you're supposed to, but now it's time to you want to make that money. You need to make you need to make plays against the better teams. Here they'll be playing the Giants, a team who the last couple of years he's dominated. So I'm looking at this game. I hate to say division games, but when it comes to the Cowboys and even the Eagles for the Giants, I'm really not giving them much of a chance. So I'm going to mark this game as a loss for them as well in the early going. Week 6, this is a game that I feel like they can win. They'll be playing the Redskins at home at 1:00. So getting back at home to play a team in Washington that is going to be better coached with Rivera, and they've made some changes to their team, but nothing crazy. This is for both Dwayne Haskins and Daniel Jones' sake. This is where you're hoping it's like that second matchup that they had last year where until Haskins went down, it looked like it was going to be a really great back and forth shootout. So that's what these two can bring. And if they both take that next step in their development, this could be a game that literally one of them makes a mistake and that's who wins the game. So this is a game, though, that at home I do like the Giants. I think a season split of them and the Redskins is realistic. So this being their potential first win, I think is very believable. Week 7, they'll be back on the road against Philadelphia. That's really tough. Start to the year. You're talking about 5 potential playoff teams and then the Eagles on the road. It's a very, very difficult thing to ask for the Giants. So even though, like I said earlier on, it's the 26th ranked schedule as far as in toughness and it should be easier for them, this is very difficult. The Eagles, though, they're one of those teams that lose to teams like Miami and lose to some bad teams, and then they'll put on against good teams. But if Carson Wentz is playing in this game, they prove that as long as their quarterback is right, even with the lack of depth that that team has, they're able to be in games. And this is a game that at Philly I don't like. Daniel Jones, I believe it'll be his first time at Philly, because I believe last year that was the game Eli played in. Eli played the Eagles twice, I believe, and got his last win against them. But going into Philly is going to be Daniel Jones' first experience there, and it's just going to be a big ask. It's going to be extremely difficult for the Giants to get a win here. So I do like the Eagles to win this, and there's a good chance at Week 7 the Giants are 1-6. So I think anything better than 1-6, Giants fans should be happy with. Not happy with, but kind of understand. I think you'd like to see them beat Chicago, and if Ben Roethlisberger's not right, take that home Monday night game. So I think their ceiling through Week 7 is 3-4, but it's very possible that it's not. And then Week 8, it's Monday Night Football at home, but it's against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you're going up against Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Godwin, Evans, and everybody else on that offense. That's tough. And it's a rematch of last year where Daniel Jones got his first win in that pretty epic come from behind victory in the second half without Saquon. So, it's very difficult. I think people are really sold on Tampa considering Arians and considering Brady and company are there. A lot of people, myself included, feel like the Buccaneers probably were closer to a playoff team last year had Winston not turned the ball over as many times as he did. So Brady will correct that, but I still don't think Tampa is like the class of the NFC. I think the Giants can keep this a game. I don't think in that game against the Giants, Winston really turned the ball over too much or at all to keep the Giants in it. It was Daniel Jones and the offense making plays. And the defense in the second half, holding off Winston, but I don't think there was any big turnovers or anything. If anything, Daniel Jones was the one turning the ball over in that game, and they were able to overcome it. But this is a very difficult game. It's Monday night, which is great, and it'll be a rocking house for the Giants, considering Brady will be there and Gronk and everything. But yeah, it's just another difficult game early on in the season. I think if you're the Giants fans, you wanted to see a couple of these easier games in the early going. After the Buccaneers, they will be playing the Redskins at Washington. So, like I said before, this game can go either way. Can be a shootout. It has the potential to be a shootout. And then I would like to think that they would split with the Redskins, but the Giants are definitely capable of taking 2. Week 10, they're home against Philadelphia. Same stuff that I said before. It depends. It's basically on Philly at this point, which Philly team you're going to get. Week 11, I think is very interesting that they have a bye week, considering the Jets have a bye week also Week 11. I guess I don't pay attention to it enough, but I find it very strange that the NFL went giving the Jets and the Giants the same bye week. I just think that's pretty crazy considering the network here. I guess it matters less with the NFL because people are watching Red Zone, and if you're not watching Red Zone, that means you have the NFL package and you're watching that. But it's just very interesting that in the same network you have both New York teams not playing. So I thought that was just an interesting take there. Week 12, it gets a little easier. The Giants will be going to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals did improve their team. I thought very, very much so during the draft. I thought they hit on a lot of their picks. And they're going to have Joe Burrow starting at quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see at Week 12 where the Bengals are. But they're a team from last year that, although picking first, they were much better. I know it's hard to say you're better than what your record shows you are, but they were in a lot of games. And I think if Dalton started those games, I still believe that the reason why Dalton didn't start those games, it wasn't to see what they had in their backup quarterback. I think it was more so on they didn't want to steal any win. They didn't want to win a couple of these games and mess themselves up for the first pick. I truly believe that was the case because there was no reason not to start Dalton last year because when he was playing, he wasn't playing particularly great considering what they had, no A.J. Green and a lot of missing pieces, but they were still very competitive. And then when he was gone, that's when they weren't competitive anymore. Then he came back and played against the Jets, started against the Jets, first game in like 6 weeks, and they got their first win. And the season turned out the way it did for them. But this is a team that has a lot of holes, but they're definitely better than being the number one pick in the draft. And if Joe Burrow can be the elevated step and be the number one pick, and a lot of these picks hit and do play well with A.J. Green back, this could be a difficult game for the Giants. But this is a game that's very winnable, though. And I think the Giants have enough talent, probably have more talent on their team. So it'll just be about how quickly these young guys for the Bengals develop, and we'll see definitely by Week 12 where they stand. Week 13, very tough ask for the Giants as they will be going to Seattle. Very much like what I talked about in the Jets podcast. I believe that this is a game for the Giants that you just hope Daniel Jones doesn't turn the ball over too much and gives his team a chance to win. I think the Seahawks are a very good team. They'll be playing for a playoff spot at this point, but I don't think they're much more than Russell Wilson. I think if you can somehow keep Russell Wilson at bay a little bit, limit what he does, and keep the score a little lower scoring, the Giants have an opportunity if they don't turn the ball over. And I'm probably going to say that in every game, as long as they don't turn the ball over. It's obvious, but the reason why I'm saying it so much is because that was what hurt the Giants so much last year. If they didn't turn the ball over, particularly Daniel Jones didn't turn the ball over so much last year, you're talking about a 4-12 team being 6-10, 7-9. They were in that many games where it could have swung that way. So this is a game that I'm not expecting them to win at all, but if Daniel Jones continues to take that next step and proves to be a franchise quarterback, he has the opportunity to not only keep them in the game but win the game. So definitely interesting game, but it's one of those games that, of course, I'm going to mark as a loss. In Week 14, this is a game that they have to get. The Giants will be home against the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are ascending. I think they're going to be considerably better than last year from their 5-11 year, especially offensively with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray has the opportunity to take a very big step in his development, but it's going to be a wait-and-see game. I mean, this is so hard to determine. It's really on Kyler Murray on how this game goes. The Giants could use redemption from last year, a game last year where Kyler Murray threw the ball like 8 or 9 times in pouring rain, and Chase Edmonds just ran crazy, ran all over the Giants in that game, and ultimately won the game just based off his legs. This is a game, though, that even though I believe the Cardinals are going to be better, I think them and the Giants are very evenly matched. I think they're very similar teams as far as I believe they're going to take the next steps, and they should be shooting for about a 7-9, 8-8 year, but I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult as we've been going down through the Giants. You see the difficult schedule that they have, how that's going to be tougher for them. But this is a game that you see this on the radar that I don't care where they are at in the season, you can't let the Cardinals come in again on a second consecutive year, come in and beat you. It's going to be tough, like I said, with Hopkins and company and what they may be able to do. But defensively, the Giants should be able to do a lot more than they were able to do last year against that Cardinals defense. This is not a strong point for that team at all. They've addressed some issues, they've added some veteran pieces, but it's still not a defense that you should be fearing. So Daniel Jones and that offense, Barkley specifically, should be able to run against this offense. And I think if Barkley was right last year playing this game, actually I don't even know if he suited up in the game, but this is a game where the Giants need to control the ball, keep Murray and that offense off the field, and they'll be fine. Week 15, this is going to be an interesting game. They'll be home against the Cleveland Browns. The Browns will be playing Week 15 and Week 16 at MetLife, similar to with the 49ers, with the Jets and the Giants, because they have the Jets Week 16. The Browns are going to be treating this game more than likely like a playoff game. This late in the season, if things are going right for the Browns, they'll be in a race, probably, in my opinion, for the second spot in the AFC North. I think the Ravens are going to run away with it. Again, I think they're that good and that much better. The Steelers, if Roethlisberger's fine, will keep it close, but it could keep it close. But the Browns have an opportunity, again, to be that wild card 5th or 6th seed. And I believe this late in the season, the Browns are going to treat this game, like I said, like a playoff game. And this is a game where if you're the Giants, you definitely have enough talent to beat the Browns. I think they have enough. I'm not going to say it again with the turnovers. You keep the turnovers down, you could win this game because Baker Mayfield can turn the ball over. And if you're the Giants defense, this is a game that you circle for two reasons. You have a very turnover-prone quarterback that you're going up against, and you're going up against your former teammate in Odell Beckham. It's going to be a big story with this game. I'm actually surprised it's a Sunday day game. Would have thought that this would have been a night game with Odell's return to the Giants, but either way, it's going to be interesting from the media aspect of that. But definitely a game that I'm not going to mark the Giants are going to win this game, but definitely a game, though, that they could definitely get the upset in and really shake things up for the Browns late in the season. Week 16, the Giants will be at Baltimore. I'm just going to say loss and just pretty much hope in this game that with the way the Ravens can move the football and score, hope that you can somehow get to Lamar Jackson, get him to turn the ball over a couple of times. He's not somebody who does turn the ball over quite a lot. I think you have a better chance of him fumbling than throwing an interception. But the look in this game is to keep it close and go into what could be a hostile environment. And again, the AFC North, I shouldn't say the Ravens are going to run away with it, but if the Browns and the Steelers can keep it close, this is a must-win game for Baltimore too, between it being for the division or it being for a wild card spot or bye week. It could be playing for a whole bunch of things here at this point. So Baltimore's going to be coming at this game. I mean, they're probably going to look to try to win this game if they're in a position to get a bye, so they can get that off week for week 17 or whatever it is, especially at home. So this is a game for the Giants that they can really use as a measuring stick game and could even come away with an upset. This could potentially be a game for the Ravens that they sleep on. I don't know who they have week 17, but say it's the Steelers or it's another AFC North foe that they need to win, or another game against another potential AFC playoff opponent. They may look past this Giants team. And if that's the case, obviously you play a perfect game. It's going to take a perfect game to beat them, but you have a shot to really do something very much like the Dolphins did to the Patriots last season. So it's going to be it could be an interesting game, but it also a game that could get out of control very quickly. And then to end the year, the Giants will be playing the Dallas Cowboys at home. Again, this is a game where the Giants can play spoiler. The Cowboys could be in the mix with the Eagles again for the division. They could be playing for a bye week, and I don't think they're going to be good enough personally to work a bye week. But you're talking about playing for the difference between a wild card and winning the division, or even missing the playoffs entirely, like last season. So the Giants have an opportunity to play spoiler here, but the Cowboys in the past couple of years have handled the Giants, but Jason Garrett is on the Giants staff now, and he knows the Cowboys better than anybody. So the Giants do get that little bit of an advantage there, and maybe some redemption for Jason Garrett in this game, even in that first game too, going back to Dallas. So it does leave it a little bit more interesting, and it could make the game a little closer than I believe it's going to be. But either way, it's going to be a tough ask for the Giants. And again, that's the whole schedule. And looking at it, like I said, it's the 26th ranked, but it's definitely a very difficult schedule, especially in the early going. You're talking about a lot of potential playoff teams that they're going to have to go up against early on. Going down it real quick, I'm going to say loss to Pittsburgh, win against Chicago. But I'll say win against Chicago at this point, because Mr. Trubisky's a starting quarterback. I actually like Daniel Jones a lot better. I know that defense is tough, but we'll go there. And then loss against 49ers, Rams, Cowboys. So that's 1-4 to start the year. And then I'd say at home against the Redskins, they get that one. So 2-4. Loss against the Eagles, 2-5. Buccaneers, 2-6. Redskins away, they probably split with the Redskins, but considering they beat them last year in their head-to-head matchup, I'll say win. So we'll say 3-6. Try to stay on the positive light here. I don't want to say they're going to split with Philly. That'd just be crazy. So 3-7. Maybe they can go out and beat the Bengals. So we'll say 4-7. And then this is really me giving them the benefit of the doubt, more than the benefit of the doubt. Lose against the Seahawks 4-8. Maybe beat the Cardinals 5-8. I say lose the next three: Browns, Ravens, and Cowboys. So 5-11. Looking at this, my initial reaction is about 5-11, and that's me thinking positively. And honestly, I know a lot of people who know that I'm not a Giants fan, I'm a Jets fan, but you probably think I'm just hating, but I really don't. I think they got dealt a very tough schedule, especially in the early going. And I do believe they're going to be in more games than they were last year. Last year, they were blown out of the water a couple of those games, and then some of those close games, they ended up turning the ball over and whatnot. I think this season, the Giants are going to be in a lot more games, and they're going to show fans that they're a year or two away from taking that step and potentially being one of those teams competing for the division. If Prescott signs, it doesn't help that Prescott and Wentz are going to both be under contract for a long time, but if Prescott signs, that means the Cowboys are going to have a whole different looking team because they signed a lot of guys already. So they're going to have to, a lot of those depth pieces, a lot of the players that make the Cowboys great are going to take a hit if they sign Prescott to close to the money that he wants. And then the Eagles, you see that is their Achilles heel, is that when Wentz is down, they don't really have all the pieces, considering what they paid for Wentz. They don't have all the pieces to put everything together, and they're playing with a lot of practice squad guys late in the season. So it's two different ways the teams are built, but the Giants are in a situation where Daniel Jones, if he takes that next step, they're not paying him yet the big money. So you have other pieces around where show some signs this year that you can compete, and then next year you can start making some splashes and hope that some of these draft picks hit. But again, for the Giants, I'm seeing around 5-11. I think their max ceiling is 6-10. Anything more than that would be pretty amazing considering the schedule. But overall, if the Giants are within every game and Jones cuts those turnovers in half, I think the Giants can compete and be one of those better teams sooner rather than later. And also a big thing, again, is Barkley. I mean, a big reason why the team was 4-12, like I mentioned earlier, is that Barkley did get the injury and clearly wasn't the same player. And you respect the fact that he wanted to come out and play and give everything that he had for the team, even that not at 100%, but clearly it affected him. And if he's right all year and he gives you that rookie year type of year, the Giants could steal a couple of these games. And I'm looking at definitely, I think if Barkley and that offensive line are right, and you're talking about 2,000 yards between on the ground and in the air for Barkley, you're looking at them stealing maybe a game against Philly, depending on how their season's going. Maybe if Barkley has a huge game Monday night against the Steelers, they have a shot. If Jones doesn't turn the ball over, I know I said that a billion times already, but if Barkley can take over that game, that's a game that Jones might only have to make a few plays to win that game, because who knows if Ben's going to be old Ben. So that's another game they could steal. I think that game against the Rams, I would have liked it better if the Giants were home. I think that could have been a close game, and if you kept that offense off the field with what Barkley can do and utilizing Daniel Jones's legs a little bit, I think that's a game that they could have upset the Rams at home. I mean, they still can on the road. It's just a tougher ask, especially coming off a tougher week before that against the 49ers. So, I mean, there's games in there that they'll have a chance to win, and if those teams give the Giants an opportunity to win, I believe they can. But ultimately, gun to head right now, I say they finish at 5-11, and that's being nice. And we'll just see. We'll see where it goes from there. But that's why they play the games. I'm excited to see both New York teams and how they finish this year. I think the Jets are a little bit closer to a potential playoff spot than the Giants. But again, a lot of things happen that people don't expect. People may expect the 49ers to be better last year, but not be the NFC champs going to the Super Bowl. I don't think people thought the Packers were going to be a 13-win team. From what I remember, everyone expected the Bears to play the Rams last year in the playoffs, and both teams didn't make it. So, and the Cowboys were supposed to represent the NFC East. So anything can happen, and I do believe that the Giants can only go up, but I do believe the Giants are in a better position to potentially shock some teams. And in the end, if they were to go like 8-8, I wouldn't be completely surprised. So at 5-11 with some of those games, they could grab that game against Cleveland. And they could also grab, like I said, they could take both from Washington, and they could possibly split with Philly and the Dallas Cowboys, and right there you're 8-8. So, and that's a very doable task. That's not even asking, okay, now I got to go beat San Fran or something. So definitely going to be excited, though. And if I'm a Giants fan, I'm just excited to see Barkley healthy and to see Daniel Jones take that next step in his development and potentially be their quarterback of the future. But until then, we'll wait and see. I just want to thank you guys for listening. Tell me what you think, how I did, if you agree or disagree, and give me your predictions and what you guys think the record's going to be. I'm going to sit at 5-11, and then I'll probably do something similar again as the season gets a little bit closer. Probably right before week 1, I'll have another outlook for both the Jets and the Giants, and we'll go from there. But again, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, and be sure to check out next week's episode. I'll have a special guest on, and we'll break down more New York sports. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.